What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Higurashi When They Cry Go. This is episode 22, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Honestly, I'm really starting to suspect that this is more or less becoming an origin story for Lambda Delta and Bryn Costello.
Yeah.
Because regardless of whatever the fuck, like, Ryu Kishi, has been stating in this, like, recent interviews, like, some people are speculating he's just, like, flat out lying at this point. But I just feel like just the way Sadako, like, has acted throughout this entire episode, it's obviously really clear that she's really close to being burnt, as close to Lambda Delta as you can really point out.
Yeah, because she's just acting really crazy, and also acting like this is just a game between her and Rika as well. So that is definitely reminding me of some, like, is how Lambda Delta would behave, because she's usually, like, in Umineko, she's usually bored and she wants to be entertained, and she kind of sees what's happening as like a big game, which it kind of is in a way. So it's like she's kind of acting like that in this episode. And of course, just because we have Feathering showing up as well, like, it's just even more of a connection to Umineko.
Yeah, and okay, well, pretty much the episode starts off. Immediately, we see, like, the whole chandelier scene, like, falling on them. Then, of course, the next scene, like, we see, like, Sadako and Rika going, in that same library, but Sadako is, like, once again trying to, talk Rika down from going to that school, and then, of course, we see her over and over again just committing suicide in order to convince Rika from, like, going to that school. It's like, to me, it was like, I don't see the point of doing that. I mean, I'm still under the impression that Sadako could just say, could just say no and just let Rika go to that freaking school.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. It's like, why Sadako is, like, needs to hammer a point by killing herself over and over again.
Yeah, because as we see every time, like, things are pretty much the same. Like, Rika's still going to go to the school regardless of what Sadako does, because Sadako in each of these loops is, like, trying to sabotage Rika and, like trying to stop her from studying, or just, like, and then one of the loops she just, like, showed Rika the village and tried to emphasize how nice it was there, and I just felt that this was kind of pointless, because it's like, I don't really feel like that's going to convince Rika to stay, especially after everything she's been through.
Well, yeah, it's like her first death, she throws herself into a moving truck.
Yeah.
She slits her throat, and then, like, she drowns.
Well, she also stabs herself with a pencil.
Yeah, it's just like any attempt, like, she tries to do, like, she's unsuccessful in trying to convince Rika from going to that school regardless. And then, like, soon afterwards, Feathering, tells her that Rika, also has been looping all this time, but for a much longer duration, for, like, over, like, a century or of such. And then, of course, Sadako realizes this and then starts reliving all the memories of all the different loops, from previous timelines, including, like, of course, Keiichi bashing everyone's skulls in with a baseball bat. And then there's also the scene with Keiichi being the only survivor of the Hinamizawa disaster, with everyone, being dead around him.
Yeah, it was interesting to actually see those arcs again. Like, we saw Onikakushi and then the village disaster, or village destroying, or village, what was it, the Hinamizawa disaster,
village destroying. That part. And she just basically just goes through an entire century of all the memories that Rika's lived through. And then we see, like, one scene of her going down to the of the clinic or facility where she finally sees her brother Satoshi, and just basically just saying her final goodbyes before you, like. Well,
in one of the reviews, we were also wondering how she was able to get access to that facility, because I speculated she had access to that facility, and then we see her being able to actually walk into that underground facility. So I'm not sure how she was able to get access to the facility, but
Yeah, I mean, she said she just looked through all those memories as as a way to research of like what.
Oh, so she would maybe know like
Rika's
the
gone
access
through.
codes or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's very likely, and of course she, well, and then she she goes through like the determination, like Feathering tells her that Rika's been suffering like through hell through all these loops for over a century and nearly gave up at one point before finally of course getting to the point where we see it at the end of Higurashi Kai. And then but Sadako, instead of realizing of what Rika's gone through, she's determined to make Rika suffer through all of this all over again in order to convince her to stay in Hinamizawa, which is kind of it's messed up thinking in her part, because you would think like she would have some kind of sympathy for her, but
yeah,
it's more of her her selfish attachment towards Rika. It's what's driving this.
I just never got the impression that Sadako was such a that she was such a selfish person. Like, I thought that after she had maybe learned what Rika has gone through, that she would actually understand or be more sympathetic, but it's like she pretty much is still the same way she was before she experienced Rika's memories of what she'd been through. So like I was just kind of like, I was thinking before that there must have been somebody like manipulating Sadako, but I guess this is just all like she wanted all of this to happen, even after learning that what Rika had been through. It's just that Feathering is helping her do it.
Yeah, and well, Feathering is just like watching this all happen.
Feathering just wants to be entertained. Like that's her only thing. She's pretty much just an observer.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, she also mentions that that I think what was Hanyu's horns is like one of the reasons how Rika got her ability in the first place, but it was damaged.
Yeah, she said the horn was damaged, and that was why Rika couldn't remember the other loops.
Mm-hmm. But because I guess Sadako ended up touching Feathering's horns, it was more. She can remember more clearly of all the other loops that she's going through.
Yeah.
And of course there's another catch that Feathering tells her that if Sadako dies after Rika, then I guess she can follow Rika through those loops, by retaining the exact same memories. So I have to wonder if this is something that Rika will end up taking advantage of, when we finally see that that scene back in, what was it, episode 17?
I think so.
In which it's like eventually they are gonna have to go back to that scene pretty soon. So I would imagine that Rika is gonna have to. I would assume Rika is gonna end up killing Sadako first before Rika, because that's what Feathering mentions, what the conditions are for of how Sadako has to go through all these loops with Rika.
Yeah, because as we remember, Rika still has the shard of the shard of that ceremonial sword.
Yeah, so I mean, it's possible that Rika is eventually gonna go through killing Sadako, or this is eventually there's a lot of fan theories going on on Twitter and various sources online that this is more than likely just going to be an origin story for Burnt Castell and Blame the Delta at this point.
Yeah. My theory is that, pretty much everybody else's is that this is potentially just an origin story, and hopefully by the end of this, I'm kind of crossing my fingers that we will get the tease for maybe an Umineko remake or something. Hopefully not Umineko Go. Like that, I kind of don't want. I kind of don't want that. But just a straight up remake of it. Because we just had so many we had so many connections to Umineko. What was that guy's name? The Amaxa, the guy with the white hair, showing up. Feathering being a kind of a somewhat important character in this. And the just kind of the implication that this might actually be an origin story of Federica, of Burnt Castell and Land the Delta. So it's just, it seems like there's a lot of connections, but you know, despite what Ryokishi is going around saying. So yeah, I feel like whatever he's saying, we should believe like the polar opposite of that. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see what happens at the end. It could be like a totally original thing. Yeah.
I just realized that Ryukishi is not his real name.
Yeah.
It's like it's actually his alias, Ryukishi 07. That's the pen name he's going by. But not many people know his actual real names. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, at least he actually shows his face, unlike Hinoko Nasu, though. Nasu just, like, he never shows his face. We don't even know what he looks like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, this was a decent episode. It definitely, like, you know, hammers the point of how insane, like, I guess Sadako is becoming after having to go through all these loops, like, you know, in her own way.
I mean, she was kind of crazy before that too. She wasn't. I don't know if like she was crazy. It's just like it was. She started doing like really irrational things even before she was put through all the memories of Rika, like throwing herself in front of a truck and just like stabbing herself with a pencil and all this other stuff. So,
yeah. I mean, I was thinking about like her childhood of being such a prankster, but.
Well, it's also just hard to imagine that she's just turned into this kind of character who's just completely insane. I mean, I just never got the impression that she was so obsessed with Rika that she was, that she would just, obsessed and also just like had what people would say, I guess, codependency. Like she has to be around Rika all the time. That's why she couldn't just let Rika leave or just have them go their separate ways. She had to be around Rika. So, I don't know. I guess that's why she just could not accept Rika just leaving her behind. And she didn't want to just stay in Hinamizawa while she went off to that school.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to find out what's going to happen now. But it seems like, you know, I would imagine that I'm hoping that they would finally go back to that scene that we left off on before all these flashbacks started, like, you know, during the, what was it, back in episode,
it was like 18.
I forgot, it was like 18. Yeah, it was around 18, which we saw that cliffhanger, which Sadako pulls out a gun out of nowhere.
Yeah, like the end of I think it was the end of 17, but yeah,
it was that scene, like, you know, before they started this whole origin story, whatever this is. But it seems like, you know, it definitely does reveal a lot of what's, you know, of what Sadako is going through mentally right now.
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate the next episode must be the possibly, since that we've only got like 2 more episodes, it must be like the beginning of the series climax, or like, because I feel like we're definitely going to go back to that scene in the next episode, or maybe I don't know, because I'm not exactly sure what else they might have to cover with you know, why Sadako is in this situation in the first place. Because I mean, we pretty much got a pretty good idea with these these flashback episodes.
Yeah, I mean, to Sadako right now, she mentions that, you know, this is more of a game to her at this point.
Yeah,
because now she's trying to, and now she's like determined to beat Rika at this game to convince her to stay in Hinamizawa or something like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, I mean, when we do get back to that scene, like, you know, Rika at some point is gonna have to use that shard. So I'm wondering how Sadako is going to potentially defend herself, or if she has any ways in which she can actually fight against Rika when she has the shard of the sword. Because as far as we know, she doesn't really have anything like that, unless Feathering is going to give her something to fight against Rika with.
I doubt it, because I don't think, like,
because, you know, Hanyu did help Rika obtain that, so
yeah, Hanyu's the only one person that told Rika about the whole shard, and I don't think Sadako is even aware of something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it seemed like it'd be pretty easy for Rika to just, you know, stab her with that or something and it, but I feel like that would be a little bit anticlimactic. Like, it just feels like there won't be much of a fight since Sadako doesn't even know about the sword, and she also doesn't know that Rika now retains the memories of the other loops. So Sadako could just easily be killed at this point, unless there's something we don't know about. But I guess we'll just have to see. I definitely thought this was a pretty good episode. I was afraid at first that it wasn't going to cover any, really progress the plot all that much, because we were going back through the same loop again with Rika wanting to go off to the school, and it taking place like a year after the events of the original series. But fortunately, we got some more new stuff with the with the conversations between Sadako and Featherine, as well as just seeing some of the arcs from the original series too. And I mean, I thought it was.
I think, this episode was just definitely hammering the point of like how far Sadako's descending into madness at this point.
Oh yeah, also just we get multiple different scenes where Sadako is just looking really insane, especially just the last shot as well, like where she's just walking off looking just crazy. So just with a sinister looking smile in her face. So I would assume that that is where the events of Higurashi GOU finally start. With them pretty much like starting the whole like June 1983 loops over again. I don't really have too much else to say about this episode. I mean, I'm interested in how the series is going to end, and if I'm right about my theory that this is actually an origin story for the characters of Burn Castell and Lambda Delta. I feel like I'm right about that, but like I said, could be wrong. It could end up being just completely original to this anime with the way that it ends. But
I mean, we don't know like what Ryukishi's like intentions are. I mean, he could be he could be telling the half truth and half lie at this point. So we'll have to see where this goes. I mean, we didn't get Featherine being calling herself Featherine or something.
Yeah,
like
she
that.
still hasn't been calling herself that, so maybe that's something we should be a little bit suspicious of, that she's not actually referring to herself as Featherine. So you could be right where Ryukishi's maybe telling half truth, so maybe it's somebody else, but I don't know. I just kind of doubt it. It could be though, but I don't know. But mostly because she hasn't referred to herself as Featherine. But yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this one. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I thought this was a good episode, just to explore what drove Sadako to where she is right now. Considering like we haven't really found out about like how deep like Sadako's madness has gone through like since then. It
was definitely really kind of solidified what I guess Sadako's motives were, and gave us a better understanding of why she was doing what she's doing. Even if she still just comes off as regardless being completely insane. I
mean, there were moments in the episode where she could just like resolve the problem by just not going to that school in the first place. But now she's resolved to like, it's like, everything's just like a game to her at this point. Like just when she was like, just a young child just playing pranks with everyone else, laying out traps for Keiichi to fall into. It's just like now she's just taking it like 10 times, even worse.
Yeah, it's like she can just no longer be away from Rika. It's like she doesn't want to be at that school, but at the same time she can't be separated from Rika, so she feels like she has to go to that school. So that's why she's like, I guess, trying to get Rika not to go. But
yeah, it's just her problem. It's just her lack of understanding.
Being just honestly, I feel like she's selfish, and also just the codependency thing. Like she has to be around Rika all the time.
And her lack of understanding of like what Rika like literally went through with all with her previous loops, and the reason why
now she understands. But even though she understands, she's still like it's like her attitude still hasn't changed. She still wants to she still like wants to go through with all this. And I was like wondering if her attitude would change now that she knows the truth, but nothing has changed. So I was kind of surprised by that. I was thinking maybe she'd have like a change of heart or something, but no. So I was kind of surprised by that, honestly. But yeah. That all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.